Hey guys, it's Scheme Over Team. I just wanted to go over some of the basics of some various defensive looks that you'll see throughout Madden. I'm doing this series where I want to go over the basics of how the game works. I've noticed throughout all of Madden, if you understand the way that these coverages work, um, you'll have a much easier time diagnosing them pre-snap, which I'm going to go over, as well as coming up with route combinations to attack the various defenses you'll see. So what I'm going to do in this video is going to be real basic, and I'm starting this off with the basic Madden player. Um, if you're a more advanced player, I'm sorry, this is probably going to be really boring for you. But my goal here is to get a player that might have never picked up the game before to not only be good at this Madden, but hopefully be good at the next Madden, the next one. Because if you understand these concepts, you will be better at every Madden that comes out. Because conceptually, it really can't change that much. The only thing that changes is which route combinations work better against certain zones, what zones are more vulnerable, what routes are a little bit better. But that's all stuff you can adjust to, but the basic concepts of the defense all stay pretty much the same. So first thing I want to go over, we came out here in a cover four. Um, Cover four defense, as you can see, you got three guys coming. This is a cover four drop. Now there is a cover four palms, which will look something more. Sorry about that. Look something more like this with four guys coming. However, the cover four palms is not very effective in this year's game. It's very easy to get taken advantage of, so you'll see a lot more cover four drop if you see anything in particular with cover four. The weaknesses of this defense are primarily underneath, because as you can see, those curl flats or the purple zones, when they go out there, you can generally hit most things underneath, especially if you have a route combo that's dragging that out or dragging them downfield. Um, you can hit a lot of underneath stuff. These yellow zones are vulnerable. Between the deep safety zones and the yellows, you tend to hit a lot there if you can create a route combination to drag those yellows in different directions. Overall, this defense is primarily used to force your opponent to slowly drive down the field. A lot of guys that play the bend don't break like this defense a lot. And again, most guys, if they're good on defense, are going to mix this in. But primarily where you want to hit is going to be just above those yellow zones in this particular game. Between those yellows, you're going to manipulate the middle of the field and on the edges in the flat, unless they hard flat. But if they hard flat, then you're going to hit the honey hole. But primarily, if they leave it stock, you're going to want to take the yellow zones or the underneath. Another defense here is going to be cover three. This is set up awfully, so I'm going to go ahead. There we go. So cover three, you've got the corners both going back into deep blues taking the third, and then you got generally your free safety or strong safety taking center third of the field. You also have two yellow zones underneath covering the middle, four blitzers, and then you got two guys going out to cover the edges, either in flats or clouds. Typically speaking, this is going to be much more vulnerable at the seams. As you can see, there's a big gap between those third deep zones. Another way this is going to be vulnerable is, again, you're going to judge it by whether or not somebody's playing a hard. But most of the time, they're not going to play the hard flats. You're still going to be vulnerable to quick flat routes and things like that, especially on the side where this guy right here, the linebacker, is going out. Another thing here is, again, you got the two yellows. These two yellows are very manipulatable, especially with drag routes this year. They bite up hard on those drag routes, so you can hit between the safety and the yellows. A lot of vulnerabilities in the cover three, but one of the nice things about the cover three is it gives you a reasonably decent coverage um, overall, and with not a ton of holes. Somebody's always in the general area. However, it is something that is very basic and very beatable in its own right, but it does cover a lot of area and get you a lot for what you're looking for. It's hard to beat. It's harder to beat deep per se, or for major chunk plays like the cover two is. The cover two is really great, but it can be real susceptible to chunk plays, as I'll show y'all in later videos. Whereas the cover three is also vulnerable. They're all vulnerable chunk plays in their own right, but the cover three gives you a little bit more flexibility than the cover two or the cover four. You get a lot of your zone blitz packages come out of this in particular. Another zone coverage is going to be the Tampa 2 or the cover 2. This defense, as you can see, the corners actually aren't bailing out. You just got the two safeties in deep halves. You got three hook zones, taking away that middle of the field area. Now, a lot of times what you're going to see with this vulnerability is deep middle, between those two safeties if you can get behind this linebacker here who plays deep, or the honey holes. So overall, when you're looking in this area between the corner and the safety, these honey holes are real vulnerable this year with the correct route combination. They're real susceptible to floods, especially if you got trips or bunch or anything like that. Like in this case, I'm running a cluster. It's real susceptible for this to get beat in this little honey hole right here. Um, However, this takes away a lot of the middle of the field stuff. It's much harder to throw underneath against this, but it does leave you much more vulnerable in the honey holes. It leaves you much more vulnerable in the middle of the field to posts. Um, Another big thing about this is against the run. The cover four is not bad against the run because those two safeties play run real well. This is real good against outside runs because these DBs tend to go forward or stand still during runs. So this is helpful if you're in the zone against outside stretch plays or toss plays, and especially if they're in some kind of tight formation. Um, I actually would recommend this defense a lot, primarily because you can make some adjustments to it to make it better. And not only that, a lot of guys like to hit real short, intermediate stuff in this flat zone area. And these corners play it much better than most of your linebackers will or anybody coming from the inside of the field. I've noticed most guys don't like the honey holes and they don't like more long developing plays. Most of the time, what you're going to get in this game is a lot more West Coast stuff, very quick passes. Now, don't get me wrong. Like I said, it's very vulnerable, but it also takes this middle of the field away a little bit, much better than the cover three and cover four. And next one you're going to see is the man coverage versions. You've got the two-man under here, which has your two safeties deep. This is primarily don't get burnt play. It'll prevent you from getting burnt, and a lot of guys like to take this and make various adjustments with it. Put guys in curl flats, play hook, curl, stuff like that. Man coverage in this game is much better than it's been in some of the previous games. It's still not great, but it is much better than it has been. Man coverage is real vulnerable to quick slant routes, outpost routes, but only certain types of outposts. It's not vulnerable to all posts. Those more long, developing, deeper posts, outbreaking posts, it's not real good against man. However, a quick move outpost, you can tell the difference. I'll actually show you the difference real quick on the offensive side. Against man, for example, these two posts are quick breaking posts. You can see that they're real sharp angles to the outside. Whereas, let's see if I can find one here. Let's see. Actually, we'll just use B. Whereas this post will beat man coverage, but it's not nearly as effective as these quick outbreaking posts. Now, the way you want to diagnose this coverage and the way you want to kind of attack it is this is one of those perfect plays because you got B with that snake route is going to generally beat man. RB's route, Wilson is going to beat that man. X will normally beat his man. So you're generally going to have man cover beaters on multiple areas of the field. The key for man coverage is you want to have two options, generally on both sides of the field, because a lot of guys that play man coverage, what they're doing is they're banking on something like this, for example, and then they're going to take this center guy. So they're going to rely on that safety to take that right side. If anyone gets burned on the right side, they're going to take this middle safety and play whoever you're hitting on a normal basis. So say you've hit X on that outpost a couple times, they're going to start coming over to sit on this, which is why you've got B's route coming across here, which will go ahead and make it to where he can't be in two places at one time. So that's generally what you're going to look at. Now, he can make adjustments to this, but like I said, this is typically, if you were going to look at it normally, this is what it normally would come out in. And this is, like I said, something you'd come out in if you were afraid somebody was going to try to burn you deep. And then the last man version that you're going to see is something like this, called cover one hole, obviously. This is another one. They're going to play this the same way that I was talking about the two-man under. They're going to take this center safety or the center linebacker, and whichever one they think you're going to hit, they're going to use one to sit on and trust their man coverage to cover well. But you're going to burn it in the same way that you would burn the two-man under. The only difference between this and the two-man under, if ran stock, is you don't have two safeties on either side of the field, which makes it very susceptible to get burnt deep. Um, because man coverage, typically, if you got a guy in man coverage who's slower than the wideout, he's going to get burnt. Unlike zone, where you can have a slower cornerback keep up with, let's say, Jakeem Grant, who's got 95 speed, an 89 speed corner can keep up with him in zone because he's bailing back immediately. Whereas man coverage, Jakeem Grant's just going to run by him. Blitz schemes. Now again, these are not actual blitzes, obviously. But the only difference between these and blitz schemes is you'll have something like this, where you got 5 guys coming, but there's 2 in the center of a cover 2. You know, just take everything and add 1 blitzer to it. Typically, one of the yellows. So typically in a cover 3 blitz scheme, you'll have 1 yellow in the center, which makes the middle of the field should be your target in most cover 3 blitz schemes. Whereas a cover 2 blitz scheme, you're typically going to want to also hit the middle, but it's going to be these edges right here where Bashman is. You see this big gap here, and if the yellow folds out, because a lot of times what can happen is it'll be something like this. Let me move him. As you can see, there's a major gap here in the center between those 2 hooks. So although it takes away a little bit more of this area of the field, you're still going to have big gaps here, and this opens up that center of the field between those 2 safeties a lot in this type of blitz package scheme, if you're seeing this a lot. And then you also have your man blitzes, which again, same basic concept, only take 1 away. These man schemes really are not real great if you're blitzing 5. They're not terrible. But honestly, the more likely man scenario you're going to see is something like that. Like that. We're going to have 6 guys coming and man across the board because they're going to want to get immediate pressure. So if you send everybody out on the route, you've got somebody running through free because there's 6 against 5. You're going to see this much more often. Make you make a quick hot read, sometimes bait you into a pick. Against these, you're going to want to look at your hot routes, you're going to want to look at your reads. And again, in the next video, I'm going to go over some of the quick reads to make against these various defenses. But I just want to show you all some of these defenses, introduce you to what they look like, some of their weaknesses. And in the next video, I'll go ahead and go over the different ways to attack them, different ways to diagnose them pre-play and things of that nature. And then I'm also going to come out with a little mini scheme of something real glitchy that I found in this recent game. But again, you know, this is a look at your cover 4, Tampa 2, cover 3, cover 1, 2-man under. Just bear in mind of what these defenses look like, because what they look like and where these people are going is going to depend on where you're going to hit them in the pass game. Because bear in mind, I haven't even touched on the run game as of yet because of the fact I'm mainly focused on the pass game. I mean, honestly, in this cover 4, you can hit these guys with a draw, an inside zone, all day, every day with blitz and 3. And another problem is with this blitz and 3, you've got all day back here. So there's a lot of different ways to hit them other than passing the ball. But bear in mind, I just want to show some of the holes in the passing game, some of the different gaps, get you familiar with what these coverages look like. In the next video, I want to talk about how to diagnose these coverages pre-play and some of the ways that you can attack them out of this cluster. So I hope you all enjoyed that video. Like, comment, subscribe. Like I said, this is going to be real basic, the first couple videos. But as I go forward, I'm going to try to get a little bit more advanced, a little bit different route combos. I've got cover 4 1-play touchdown plays. I got cover 3 1-play touchdown plays. I got ways to burn all these coverages, which if y'all stick with me, I'll get to. But I want to go over this for the more basic Madden player, because one of the things I've run into, I've been playing Madden at a pretty high level since '08, and one of the things I run into all the time when I play guys is they'll be good at a couple different Maddens, and then the 3rd or 4th one comes out, and then they're absolutely awful at it. And it's not due to lack of play. It's due to the fact that they understood the way that that man worked, but they didn't understand these basic coverages. And due to not understanding these basic coverages, they didn't understand that you can attack these coverages in the exact same way every game. It just depends on which ones are more effective game by game. But the holes always stay the same. So if you understand the defenses, basically if you understand the way that football zones work, um, you'll be good at Madden regardless. But either way, I'll be hitting y'all up with the next video. Until then, I hope y'all have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video.